Hi, thanks for joining me today. This video is going to focus a little bit on hip stability. So we know it is very important for our hips to be mobile and be able to move when we want them to, and we have a tendency to be tight in the hips. But conversely, our hips also need to be able to be strong and stable to support us when we need. So we're going to do a standing sequence that focuses a little bit more on hip stability today. So you shouldn't need any particular props today, just your yoga mat, and we're going to start in a mountain pose. So bring your feet hip distance apart, and hip distance apart lines up the skeletal structure. So if you find the points of your hips and put your fingertips so they point straight down, you should line up the thigh bone, the femur, with the bones in the shin all the way down to the center of your foot. So that's hip distance apart. Lift all your toes, spread the toes, place the toes back down. Think of the inner arch of the foot lifting and the kneecaps lifting. That starts to engage the muscles in the legs. Think of the sternum lifting, widen across the collarbones. Think of the crown of the head lengthening up, the tailbone and the shoulders really releasing down, and think of pressure down through the heels, energy down through the heels. So imagine here, just to feel a little bit more strength in the legs, imagine that you're trying to split your mat into two. So as if you're pressing the feet away from each other, you should feel the muscles in the legs really engage. So take a few breaths here, just finding that foundation, inhaling and exhaling. And as you take your next inhale, float the arms all the way up and overhead, reaching the fingertips all the way out to the horizon, then all the way up towards the sky or the ceiling. And then exhale, turn the palms down, float the arms back down. And imagine as the arms move that they're moving through thick, heavy molasses or something. Inhale, or you're in the water and that water is resisting you, arms floating all the way up. So we're keeping that energy in the whole body. And then exhale. And the arms float down. Good. One more time, just like that. Inhale. Arms floating all the way up. And then exhale. The arms float down. So this time, as the arms float up, we're going to keep them here. Inhale, the arms float up and overhead. And now begin to bend your knees, tracking your knees out over your toes. Send your sit bones back. Think of drawing the lowest ribs towards the hips. Find a chair pose. So if it's comfortable for your shoulders, your arms can be here. If it's not comfortable for your shoulders, try arms at shoulder height, or even keeping your hands on your hips. So whatever variation works for you. Inhale and exhale. But again, set that foundation and imagine that you're trying to split your mat in two. So you're kind of isometrically pressing the feet away from each other, and see if you can, without moving the knees. So we don't want the knees to wing out here. So imagine that the feet are pressing out so you can feel that energy in the legs. Inhale, especially around the hips, and exhale. Then press into the feet. Inhale, come all the way up to that extended mountain once again. And then exhale, bend the knees out over the toes, sink back to that chair pose. So think of sending the hips back rather than the knees forward. Yes, the knees are going to bend a little forward in front of your ankles, but make sure they're not tipping way out to your toes. Inhale and exhale, and again, think of isometrically pressing those feet away from each other and energizing all the muscles in the legs, and then inhale, come all the way back up. We'll do that one more time. Exhale. Again, think of drawing lowest ribs towards the hips, so we're keeping that core engaged. And again, arm position, whatever feels best for you. Inhale and exhale, and then pressing into the feet, come all the way up, and then float the arms down by your side. So if you're not at the end of your mat, go ahead and come to the end of your mat. Again, find that mountain pose. We're going to inhale the arms all the way up. Come to that chair pose once again. Send the knees out a little bit towards the toes, sit bones behind you. Now bring your hands to your hips. Lift the left heel, and we're going to step the left leg back, come to a high lunge. So make sure your front knee stays over top of your heel. That knee's not shooting in front of the ankle. Back knee can be bent, or you can press through the heel and straighten the leg, or you can release the knee down to the mat. Again, your option. Think of the right hip drawing back, that right hip crease drawing back. Inhale and exhale. Now we're thinking of the feet going opposite directions, as if we're trying to split the mat in half front to back. So imagine that you're pressing that right foot forward and that left foot back. Right hips drawing back, lowest ribs draw towards the hips. Hands can stay at the hips, or you can bring the arms overhead. So again, we're creating the stability in the hips and the pelvis. Focus on our breath. Find a focal point. This is a balance too if you have that back knee lifted. Inhale and exhale. And then release the hands back down to the hips. We're going to give a little push off with that back foot. We're going to step back to that chair pose. Land the foot, bring the arms again back to that chair pose or keep them at the hips. And then press into the feet. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, release the hands down, hands to the heart. Take a breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, arms float all the way up. Exhale, send the knees out towards the toes, sit bones behind you, find that chair pose. Inhale and exhale. Again, imagine you're isometrically pressing the feet away from each other. Bring the hands to the hips. Now lift the right heel. Step the right leg back to that high lunge. Find your balance here. Make sure the left heel is under the left knee. That left hip is drawing back. Back knee can be bent, or you can press through the heel and straighten the leg or lower that knee down. Hands can stay at the hips, or you can bring the arms overhead. Inhale. Again, so now we're thinking of that left foot pressing forward, that right foot pressing back, really find that stability. And even though that left foot's pressing forward, we're still drawing that left hip back. So isometrically, left hip's drawing back, left foot's pressing forward, right hip and heel are pressing back. Inhale and exhale. And then bring the hands again to the hips. We're going to step that right leg up beside the left, come back to that chair pose, and then press into the feet, come all the way up to stand. Then release the hands down by your side. Do a little roll of the shoulders. And now come to face the long edge of your mat. So we're going to step the feet nice and wide. So toes pointing towards the long edge of the mat, hands to the hips, so find that neutral position for the pelvis. And now turn the right foot towards the end of your mat, keeping the pelvis level. A lot of times when we turn the right foot and then we're going to start to bend this right knee, a lot of times that hip will drop down. So keep those hips level. Begin to bend your right knee. Think of it aiming towards your second and third, a little baby toe. If your knee shoots past your ankle, walk it out a little further. Hips are still lined up as much as they can. Again, everybody's conformation is different. So, but keep those hips level as we come into our warrior two pose. And imagine here, again, as we stabilize the hips, imagine that right foot is pressing towards the end of the mat. The left foot is pressing towards the back of the mat. That back toes are turned in slightly, arms out by your side, vertical alignment for your spine. So make sure when the knee bent, you didn't tip over. So think nice vertical alignment for the spine, arms out to the side. Turn and look out over that right middle finger and find your breath. Inhale and exhale. Again, isometrically imagine you're pressing those feet away from each other. Inhale and exhale. Good, another breath here. Inhale and exhale, and then straighten the front leg, bring the arms all the way up, turn the right toes in, turn the left toes out. We're going to bend this left knee, bring the arms out by our side. And then just do a little check-in. You know, notice what happened to the pelvis there. Did it really tip over? Find that level pelvis. Adjust the left foot if you need to. Left heel, maybe this hip's a little looser. Maybe you shot a little past your ankle and you need to adjust that or bring it back in. Arms again out to your side. Inhale and exhale. Lengthen up through the crown of the head. Another breath. And then gently pressing into the feet, straighten the left leg, bring the hands to the hips, turn the left foot back to center, and then maybe the feet in just an inch or two. Make sure you're not locking the knees, find the hinge of the hip, and then just do a nice gentle forward bend, nice flat back. So hinge from the hips. So we're not collapsing and rounding the spine. Think of hinging at the hips, lengthen through the crown of the head. Let the hands rest on the thighs. If you need a little bit more support, think of drawing the lowest ribs towards the hips. So we're still engaging our core muscles here. Inhale and exhale. And then press into the feet, come all the way up, float the arms all the way up and overhead. This time reach through the fingers, lift the heart and the sternum, nice stretch through the front of the body. If it feels okay for you to look up, that bothers your neck, keep your gaze level and forward. And then bring the palms back together, bring the hands to the heart, and then just heel toe the feet back to your mountain pose once again. Press into the palms. Imagine again as we find that strength and stability, we're isometrically pressing the feet away from each other. We're not locking the knees. You can close the eyes for a moment. Inhale and exhale again, just creating stability in the hips and the pelvis. And then very gently let the eyes open, let the arms release down by your side. Take a breath. Inhaling and exhaling. So thank you so much for joining me today. So that is a sequence that you can do along with a hip mobility sequence. Again, we usually are tight here, but we don't want to spend all of our time on hip mobility because our hips also need to be strong. They need to be able to stabilize us. So doing a combination of both, so we have both strength and stability and mobility in the hips, is very important. So thanks again for joining me today. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like this, and you can comment below if you'd like. And also check out the information about my website in the description. And I hope to see you sometime soon in the saddle or on the mat. Thanks. Bye-bye.